really funny because the N that they're using is actually the runic, like an old Elder Futhark H, so it's just horseman or horsman. Horsemen.
No, it's
horsemen.
Yeah,
horsemen.
Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. My name is Elena.
I'm Bjorn.
And we're Viking Age reenactors and living historians here to talk with you about your favorite Viking shows. So before we get started, we just wanted to say hello and welcome to our newer subscribers. I remember we were really excited when we reached 100 subscribers a few months back and we did like a little Q&A video and everything, and now we're realizing that we are close to reaching 1,000 subscribers. Whether you found us through Vikings, The Last Kingdom, Hellblade, Assassin's Creed, what have you, and now Norsemen. We just want to thank you for being here, and if you are not subscribed yet but want to get all of the content that we put out, do hit that subscribe button and the bell and you can be notified.
We are finally about to start season 3 or season 0 of Norsemen, which is one of our absolute favorite shows ever to be made. We've made a couple of videos in the past talking about some of the general features or like elements of some of the earlier seasons of Norsemen as we were working our way through, and then we got distracted. That's totally fine, because now we're going back into it with a fresh new season. I don't even know what to expect, to be completely honest.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited. Without further ado, season 0.
I cannot stress strongly enough how important it is with a luscious head of hair.
Yeah.
A bald man is like a blank runestick. Zero content.
Oh my god.
No credibility.
Off to an awesome start.
Oh god, it's so funny. He kind of looks like Elrond. Like with the, like, half, like with his bangs pulled back and stuff. It's so silly just because it's obviously like a ploy on like him just being bald.
Yeah.
Obviously. But I paused it specifically because like hair was a sign of beauty. Mm-hmm. And especially like long hair, and women especially, but it's also believed that men kind of wore their hair a little bit long too, potentially. We don't really know a lot about the styles of hair, how they would be worn kind of in an exact particular sense. But we do have this association with like long hair, often dyed blonde, kind of had this kind of association with beauty, or with Freya, with Sif. The combs that they were using too were great, like proper examples of a Viking comb.
Was it a bone comb that he was using, or was it a wood comb?
I think it was wood. It's a little hard to see in the light.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see it again. But it looked like it was a wood one. But it's still like the same kind of design, and like shape and everything that they would have had.
Yeah, and it's also driving the point home that, you know, Vikings were very cleanly people. A couple of things about Norse cleanliness. They did bathe once a week. They definitely combed their hair regularly, just about every day. It's part of the reason why, while some people think that Vikings had dreads, that was practically impossible for them, because the way to get dreads was to not comb your hair and not to clean it every
Essentially,
week.
One of the big indicators that a excavation site might belong to Vikings or to Norse is actually the abundance of combs that we found. So we do know that hair care especially was a huge part of their culture. So it's something that they do frequently, or they always have kind of on them.
And we also know that blonde hair was, as you said, seen as beautiful, so they would often use lye soap, essentially, to bleach their hair if their hair wasn't blonde. It's not that all of the Scandinavians were blonde with blue eyes like we think of them to be. It's that if they did have darker hair, they often bleached it in order to get the effect that they wanted to.
Yeah.
And that also had a side effect of killing lice in the hair.
They would at least have, at the very least, bleached tips. So now I'm just imagining a bunch of like Viking Guy Fieri's.
Oh my god.
Which is probably my favorite thing. A Guy Fieri Viking in a big pink bathrobe. This is now my favorite ideal Viking image of all time.
Wow.
Well, looks to me like you're getting a bit thin up top, buddy. Say what?
Being bald wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but it does seem to kind of be a little bit of a focal point, because certain people even got like a byname after it. Like we know Skálagrim or Skatlagrim, depending on your pronunciation. Skatla literally means bald. So it's Grim the Bald, and that's just how he's known for the rest of his life. His son, Egil, who we talk a lot about, Egil Skallgrimsson. Egil, son of Bald Grim. Like, that's just your name now forever because you're a bald piece of like, have fun with it.
Yeah, and I mean, that doesn't necessarily only amount to baldness, you know.
No, not at all.
You know, Harold Fairhair was known as Harold Tanglehair during his conquesting days before he was the king of all Norway. He refused to wash or comb his hair until he conquered Norway. Mm-hmm. So he was known as Harold Tanglehair. Mm-hmm. His hair was basically one big dread, one big tangle. And then after he conquered Norway, he had it combed out. And then after that, he was known as Harold Fairhair.
And again, still with those connotations, because, you know, the whole Tanglehair thing was had a little bit more of like this negative, dirty, kind of like hobo-y aspect. But then he became the king of the United Norway, and he became Harold Fairhair with his long, beautiful, luscious hair. So it's still this kind of thing that was idolized and everything. So with Harold Tanglehair, so the whole big thing rolling around that was the woman he did it for, because he united Norway to get with a girl.
Yeah.
Like, dude, tops on you.
What has your man done for you lately?
Yeah, seriously, women, ask yourselves
Ladies.
this question, ladies. Really, like, what has he done to earn your respect? He created a country. No, but so the striking thing about that story was at the end of his conquest, when he did have his hair combed out, it was kind of supposed to be done by his soon-to-be bride, but instead it was done by, like, his best friend. His, like, head honcho, essentially, his right-hand man. Mm-hmm. And that's a little bit of a strange thing, because in Norse culture, in Norse society, they had certain ways to show affection. Not to get too far into it, but one of them was actually to, like, brush your husband's hair, or brush the hair of the person that you love. And so it's a little bit strange that instead of, you know, conquering Norway and earning the heart of this woman, it's pretty strange that he didn't have her comb his hair. We kind of see the same thing with the opening scenes of this episode too, where Varg's sitting there and he's having his right-hand man combing out his hair instead of his wife. And it's a little bit peculiar. If he becomes so evil because he just went bald, like, I'm gonna lose it. Like, if that's the whole, like, his whole character backstory is like, he was this beautiful man with a wonderful home and all these caring friends, and then he went bald.
And he was made fun of.
He was made fun of, and he went bald, and he turned evil. Like, that's the best backstory I've ever heard in any D&D character I've ever played. And it's going to be my next D&D character, 100%.
Well, congratulations for listening to me.
I can't believe that's his backstory. That is the best evil villain backstory I've ever seen.
That also happened way faster than I expected it to.
Yeah.
I was expecting more of a build-up.
Yeah, I thought there'd be way more of a build-up.
Yesterday, we had an incident where the sitting low stalker was more daring than ever.
I love this so much right now. I totally forgot, like, in season 1, they always talked about him, like, being banned from the shitting log.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. Holy...
You get to see why.
A hand shot out from the ground and caressed my scrotum. Oh my god.
Caressed his assicles.
My assicle? Jesus Christ.
Just take me home.
I saw the turn shoes, but I just saw a grown-ass man just, like, carry him away on his back, like, barely hanging off the ground. Like, I love it so much. It's just so stupid and it's so silly. Because it's like, you're in the moment, you know? And I feel like they could have, like, dragged it out, like, a little bit like they typically do with him, where, you know, he's trying to do the fire and everything in the last episode. I think it's like, well, you know, I don't have, like, a horse to carry you home, so I don't know how you expect, you know, you're going to have to walk a little bit because I can't just drag you, though. You know, I think they could have dragged it out, like, a little bit more in terms of that, but, like, that's totally something they do.
Yeah,
Just so funny.
And this guy was from the dead. First, he ate one of these, and then he took a big bite out of one of these.
Okay.
Viking Age science.
Force feeding it to slaves might as well be an option.
Oh my god.
I just love they have like a fucking like skin with just the drawings of the mushrooms. Like, well, I guess this one's off limits now. Oh my god.
I like it's just like, well, he ate this one, and then he had a bite of this one, so it could have been like either or. Well, eat one and see what happens.
Why don't you eat one? Yeah, and we'll figure it out. You know, if you die from that one, then we'll know it's that one. Oh, great.
And this is how science came to be.
I mean, it's not wrong. Like, yeah, it is.
You have to have a control, first of all.
Oh, it's so
And then you base it off of that.
It's so funny. And like these are the little instances that I love with the show because it just always asks you the question of like, you know, what dude in the Dark Age like ate the mushroom and died and was just like, oh yeah, this isn't the good one, and they do it exactly how you'd think, just like so like remorseless and like clinical.
Oh, that's terrible and amazing. I just want to say a quick note on their settlement, on their little village that they have going there. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love the tents that they have set up. They are very historically accurate tents. They're the A-frame tents that we use.
Mm-hmm.
Probably made the same way that we have made ours. And also the actual proper houses that are on there with the grass turf on the roofs and everything like that. They have the different like skins hanging out to dry. They have like the different animals hanging out and everything. Like it's just absolutely gorgeous. I love this village.
Yeah, same here. And there's a prevalence of like tents here basically to establish because we don't have the permanent houses yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the temporary living quarters that you would typically have like while you're out raiding or building a settlement or something, you know. It's great to see. Think about how much more they could have had made if one person devoted his time to building houses rather than digging an elaborate trench system to spy on people taking shits. Like, he did that himself. He didn't get help. That's so much work. Imagine how much he could have done. Also,
say what you want about him. He is talented.
He's when he wants to be, he's very motivated.
Yeah.
He's very talented.
I mean,
very talented
I mean,
individual.
those tunnels have not collapsed yet.
They were expansive. He could turn around in them. You know, it wasn't like a like crawling through like an air vent kind of thing. Like, it was very spacious. There was room. There was padding on the ground. Ultimately led to his downfall because you could hear the rustling of the leaves. But well crafted, well designed.
From now on, you're gonna join us in battle. You're gonna plunder. You're gonna mutilate, and not least, you're gonna do real Viking things.
You can't make me. Crocheting is my life. I won't do it. I hate you. You can't control me because I'm soon 18 years old.
It's just so stupid. Like, the longer you think about it, like...
He's nearly 18 years
He
old.
looks no different! He looks no different!
So, the crocheting.
Yeah.
So the crocheting thing that he's talking about would actually be in the Viking Age what is known as nålebinding. We actually talked about this a little bit more in depth in one of the Norsemen videos. I believe it was the first one, and we'll link it up top if you guys want to go check that out. But the long and short of it is that nålebinding was kind of the Viking Age version of crochet.
Yeah. I think what he was actually doing was crocheting, technically.
I did see the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I almost wonder, and those of you guys that are in Norway that have seen the Norwegian version, do let us know because I'm kind of curious.
Ooh.
In the Norwegian version, was it nålebinding or was it actual crochet?
That's an interesting point.
Because I know that they filmed this both in Norwegian and English, and I wonder if they swapped it.
That'd be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know for sure. I'm very curious about this now.
Nålebinding, the Viking Age version of crochet, was done with a single needle instead of the hook that you would use for crocheting. But it sort of kind of has the same type of a rhythm that would make hats, that would make mittens, that would make socks, arm warmers, scarves, what have you. You can make whatever you want out of them. It was usually done with wool, so it would be used in the for winter clothing to keep you warm.
That kind of traditional nålebinding skill. It was seen as kind of like a woman's chore,
Yeah,
like a woman's
exactly.
work. A lot of activities with the actual production of textile was seen as like a feminine trait. So it's kind of like a manly or masculine thing to like harvest the wool or like flax for linen and stuff, to process that, but then to actually spin it and weave it or to make something out of it, that was seen as a more feminine trait. Mm-hmm. So the other point that we kind of saw in this little dialogue between them all was this whole kind of like big brother, little brother relationship. And I mean, like, that's, again, it's one of those things that's a common trope nowadays, you know, with just the older brother telling you what to do and having control and doing whatever you want. But also in the Viking Age, I mean, it would have definitely been a thing, because inheritance-wise, when a father dies, pretty much all of his possessions essentially go to the firstborn son. Any children afterwards kind of have to make their own ends meet. And they can either choose to stay in the village or stay on the farm and work for the older brother after his inheritance, or they can choose to, you know, try to earn what they can, take what they have, leave and go Viking, and take what other people have, essentially. So in this kind of little like segment here, it was kind of like a great play again of both of those things, of the little brother not wanting to be bossed around or told what to do, but also kind of that association with the Norse custom, you know, that societal norm of, you know, you're here and your brother owns everything. He's the chieftain, not only, but he's also your older brother. You kind of have to do what he says. Like, that's what's expected. So it's just great to see them kind of play on that as well.
Are there any animals left in the woods now?
Yes.
So I think we had also talked about this a little bit as well in our first video about Norsemen, about Freya. And here she is introduced as this Amazon huntress woman who is hunting for animals and killing them for food and for pelts and everything like that. Obviously we know her as a warrior from seasons 1 and 2. But it's also funny how they kind of go back to the whole separation of Orm nålebinding or Orm crocheting and her being a huntress, because hunting animals and everything was a man's job. And nålebinding and doing any kind of textile work was a woman's job. So it's funny how in here they're just like, oh, you know, opposites attract. And they're opposites, but they're opposites in a very different way than what you would expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that kind of ties into the other thing that I was talking about too, where like they use opposites attract. Like that wasn't necessarily like something they knew to say like in the Viking Age. That wasn't like a common idiom or anything like that. Yeah. But it's just like it's injecting that modern life that like we have as a society, but like giving it like an old Norse reaction of like, what's that supposed to mean? Yeah. So, you know, you guys are just opposites, so you know it makes sense that you go together. That makes no sense.
Yeah, it's like in season 1 when Orm had all of these like modern sayings. It's
exactly.
Just like it's something that I just decided to start saying.
Yeah, exactly. It like shouldn't be as funny as it is, but it really is, and I love it. So really quickly, I'm excited about that last scene. Not because the dude survives, but because, so, burning house, he was going to die,
right.
Burned alive. He's crawling out from underneath the big, like, fur that, like, protected him, basically. So that's actually awesome, because in Njál's saga, Njál's died by having his whole house burnt down, and he was suffocated and burnt alive with his family. It was horrible. It was excruciating. But what's really cool is that even though he died, he and his wife and their, like, child were actually protected from the flames because they hid themselves underneath a giant, like, fur. A giant pelt. So they still died, they still suffocated, but their bodies were perfectly preserved. You know, so says the saga. And they were able to, like, try the people because of it, essentially, in such an effective way. But I just thought that was really interesting how they actually had him hiding underneath, like a fur, like a big hide during the fire.
That's
so
awesome.
I just thought that was a really cool play with the saga. I love this show so much. It's just so funny, just in like the dryness of the humor and like how very like blunt and straightforward it is. I have high hopes for this. It's gonna be great.
This is gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be
I
so
can't
good.
wait to watch the rest of this.
Can't wait. It's gonna be a great 6 weeks. I kind of don't want to give this one a rating because it's not really like we're not basing it on like the historical accuracy of it because we know it's a comedy. It's like a spoof. I don't think it makes sense to rate the show.
Yeah. Killing her animal so that she can eat and make pelts and, you know, just kind of like live her own lifestyle. That was... Hi.
Did you have a bad dream? Honey?
It's okay.
Did you have a bad dream? Oh, okay. Yeah, come on. You can sit up with us and we can talk all about it.
She had a nightmare about being hunted by Freya.
Do you want to stop showing your butt to the camera and show your pretty little face to the camera? Put your tail down. Have some decency, girl. No, hun. You don't want Autumn to be watching you. Goodness.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of our future videos. And we will see you in the next one.